I was told to deliver this message. You think you're invincible because you got money, bombs, guns, and planes, killing babies, innocent people. I think you're insane. Chaos and destruction is the name of your game. Somebody's got to stop you before the whole world goes up in flames. So he told me to tell you, I'll
fight for my brothers. We can go to war. Fighting for my father, I will give my life for. I feel so alone in this white man's world. Whip it in the kitchen, watch that white turn pearl. Standing on the corner, standing on my phone. Standing with my gangsters, but I'm standing on my own. If you got to be his own, split you like you be alone. Sacrifice my life, understanding each his own. Toast to the keys of success. Bel Air rose on my breath. I've been a student since '03, and we can fight till we see peace.
I fight like that. 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 I fight like that.
Let me holler at you for a minute, give you game. Real scrappy, love the bottom, Buddha bang. Trigger happy, and everybody in the game. You shot your family and didn't even know it, man. Same rules, same code, with a different slang. Struck him out, now they took him out the picture frame. Mama, don't cry, we gon' get by. 2 weeks later, got killed in a drive-by. Go why? Must we fight amongst each other? Reach one, each one, teach one, my brother. I teach them how to fight on the grass and in the class. Snoop Dogg, all stars, yes sir, they coming fast. D1, football, we won. Now proud of my son, Lil Snoop, yes sir, cause he won. Right on, SC, fight on. We 100, keep it coming, dip, slip, slide on, light on.
I fight like that. 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 I fight like that.
Watching the warriors, the story of the rebels. You from the ghetto, did you know never to settle? I'm shooting common on the streets, I'm a pharaoh. Battling in African-American apparel. This on a t-shirt, youngest doing street work. Grinding till they teeth hurt, that's because they need work. Working till the feet hurt, trying to get my soul right. Used to be on old bikes, serving them that cold white. Wars in the winters, the block is hot in summers. Today's mathematics, we know it's strength in numbers. To the bosses and the runners, the hustlers and the stunners. We fight for the hundreds, we fight for the oneness.
He fights with the heat. He fights with the sleet. He said, I am who I am. I can't be beat. Nobody has won a war against me. I fight like that. 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 I fight. All of the nations of the earth as we speak are angry. They're angry because governments cannot suffice the needs of their people. They're angry because a few have gotten wealthy at the expense of the many, and the poor and the sick and the weak and the unlearned multiply. And the value of their lives are diminished by the rich and the powerful, so that when human life is devalued, that in the eyes of man you are unworthy of the gift of life, then it is easy for another human being to take the life of another human being that he or she has devalued. Black life in America is devalued. Hispanic life is devalued. Even poor white life is devalued. There's a way that I have to behave. I'm free, but I'm not free to rob you of yours. I'm not free to take from you what does not belong to me. So if I will construct my life according to these righteous principles, then between man and man, man and woman, peace. Between race and race, peace. Between rich and poor, peace. We have our beautiful Mexican family. This once was theirs. So you can't say to them they are aliens. That's a horrible word to use for former owners. I see my indigenous family here. Many tribes, but they're really one great nation of people that now must be reunited with themselves. So it's their time now, as well as ours, that God would intervene in our affairs and bring the bottom rail to the top. The government is not rehabilitating soldiers. When they send you away to kill. When you come home, they gotta reconstitute you for civilian life again. Make sure you have a job so you can take care of your family, but they're not doing it. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, a woman can do anything that a man does, and the only thing he forbids the woman to do is the thing that degrades her. So how high can you go? High as you want to. Why would God allow the female to wear his attributes if you can't be a manifestation of that attribute? Women, you got to be set free. What God has put within you must be cultivated, must be developed, and must be used for the advancement of a nation and a world. I said to myself, Mr. President, why the hell don't you go to the wicked police department? Why the hell don't you stand up and tell them that your killing of black youth and brown youth is not gonna hold no more? Why don't you stand up? God's world is in need of a truth that will set up a government where everybody can live in peace, under real freedom, real justice, and real equality. This city has always fascinated me, the city of Frankfurt. known to be a city of trade and economic growth. As a kid, I was amazed by handing over pieces of paper for ice cream, toys, and candy. Handing over such a paper and receiving a toy racetrack in return, I just could not believe it. Where could I get this magic paper? This idea I couldn't get out of my mind. I started asking questions and read every book I could find. I learned the money was backed by gold as a paper form to save us carrying it around. Something of real value behind the paper. But everything was changed. The value was capped, and the gold standard, as it was called, was abolished. Since then, the value of money has been the biggest lie of all. The dollar bill is now just a paper subject to inflation and devaluation. This must stop. The solution, returning to a piece of gold that you can actually hold, and it holds value or even better cash gold, paper pressed and refined with real gold. A masterpiece solution, a forgery-proof, totally digital cryptocurrency. Here I am in the city of money, but not as a banker or a gold dealer. The Frankfurter Book Fair has invited me to read from my books that will help the world believe in gold again. Think Big will help show people how to be successful. I am very proud to be here. First,
in the first few pages of the book, by way of introducing himself, Mr. Herman declares that he is one of the toughest men on the planet, if not the toughest. And whether or not you are prepared to take his word for it now, as he tells you so, he is absolutely sure you will agree with him by the time you've finished the book. And he's right. By the time you've finished the book, you'll know that over the course of these few hundred pages, you've been in the company of the toughest man on earth, physically, mentally, and spiritually. This was definitely a man with a very strong body and a strong character to go with it. Victor Herman had been born in Michigan, but he had moved to Russia during the 1930s when his father went there to work in a factory built by the Ford Motor Company. Victor Herman, who was in his early 20s at the time, was also arrested for being politically unreliable and was sent to Siberia. The philosophy of the Soviet prison system at the time was very simple. Prisoners were simply worked to death. In the Arctic cold of the Siberian winters and the mosquito-infested, unbearably humid summers, the camp inmates were given one impossible task after another. With inadequate clothing, impossibly poor equipment, and almost no food. Faced with this kind of existence, a prisoner would inevitably lose his will to live, and death would occur not long afterward. Victor Herman was an amazing exception to this rule. Though he had no real hope of a life outside the camps, though he had nothing to live for in the sense that most of us are used to, there was something inside him that refused to be broken, just out of sheer stubbornness, just out of sheer strength of character. At one point, a special task was arranged for Mr. Herman, something the camp administrators were certain that he wouldn't survive. Early one frozen morning, he was sent out into the forest with only a single guard accompanying him, and there he was shown several dozen full-sized trees that had been cut down and stripped of their branches so that they could be used as telephone poles. He was then ordered to single-handedly load the trees onto some railroad flat cars before the end of the day. It was literally an impossible task, like something out of a fairy tale or a bad dream. But Victor Herman did it. Somehow he did it, simply because he refused to be beaten or to give up. It was a miracle, but it actually happened. It was a feat that dwarfed the accomplishments of any Olympic athlete. And as it happened, Victor Herman was in an excellent position to make that particular judgment, since after his release from the camps in the 1950s, he became coach of the Soviet Olympic boxing team. The author of Coming Out of the Ice performed many heroic feats during his years in Siberia, but he considered the incident with the telephone poles to be his masterpiece. As he worked, he was watched by only the armed guard, who just stood there silently throughout the day, probably half frozen to death himself, and undoubtedly completely dumbfounded by what was happening before his very eyes. When the impossible job was finished, Victor Herman could not resist walking up to the guard and throwing his arms around him. This incredible display of physical and mental toughness simply had to be celebrated somehow, even if only with a Russian prison guard in the middle of a vast Siberian forest. As Herman described it, the guard allowed him a brief smile, and then the two men trudged back to the camp, where Herman endured many more years of incarceration before his eventual release, his remarkable Olympic career, and finally, his return to the United States after almost 30 years in the Soviet Union. Victor Herman's amazing story certainly deserves to be told, and I believe there's a great deal to be learned from his accomplishments. But it's not what you might think. I'm not going to suggest that you can be like Victor Herman or that you should even try. In fact, I think the value and the extraordinary power of his story lies largely in the differences between what this man accomplished and what we can expect of ourselves. To me, the most amazing fact about Victor Herman's survival is the fact that he found motivation entirely within himself. Nobody cared whether he lived or died. He had no reason to think he would ever have a life outside the prison camps. It was made obvious to him throughout every minute of every day that his captors were simply waiting for him to give in and growing more and more impatient about it all the time. To me, the fact that Victor Herman managed to maintain his will to live under these conditions of total isolation is even more amazing than the things he accomplished with his body. Very few people are able to develop this kind of intrinsic motivation. That's just an axiom of human nature. Most of us, virtually all of us in fact, need reasons outside of ourselves in order to accomplish anything of significance. We can still be people of strong character, but we need something outside ourselves to help us become as strong as we can be. Just sort of wanting to be financially successful is rarely enough to make it happen. Just wanting to learn a new skill or give up a self-destructive habit or make some other major change in your lifestyle usually won't cut the mustard. But what if you had to get a large amount of money in order to afford the very best medical care for someone you love? What if you had to learn how to speak a new language in order to save a family member who had been imprisoned in a foreign country? Or if you had to change your way of living in order to find a way out of some other life or death situation? Your motivation would move to a much higher level. If you're like most people, having to is a lot stronger than wanting to. But often, and especially when you're young, that difference isn't always clear until someone points it out to you. In my own life, it was my mentor, the late Mr. Earl Schoaf, who pointed out the distinction between wanting to on the one hand and really wanting to, or even having to, on the other. By doing so, Mr. Schoaf did me a great favor And after we'd talked about this, I felt for the first time I was really pointed in the direction of success. The way it happened was really very simple and straightforward. Mr. Schoaf simply took me aside one day and said, Jim, you have enough talent and intelligence to really accomplish a lot in life, but you just don't have enough reasons to make it happen. When I heard that, something clicked inside my head. This was truly a key insight, a turning point in my life. I had always doubted if I had enough ability to be successful, but suddenly I realized that having enough ability was not the problem. The problem was having enough reasons. I'm no Victor Herman, and frankly, I doubt whether you are either. We don't have the willpower to achieve success in a vacuum, as if we were standing out in the middle of a Siberian forest loading logs. We need all the help we can get in terms of motivation, but of course, different people are motivated by different things. I've read a number of studies on motivation, and the ones I've found most convincing have isolated 4 main factors as the most powerful human motivators. I'll go through them one by one, and I urge you to listen to them carefully. Think about how you can put them to use to help you to accomplish your goals. And if you're in a managerial or leadership position, think also about how you can use them to help motivate the people you're supervising. These are the real factors that make people get off their behinds and do things. These are what works when wanting to just isn't enough. These are the true reasons for believing something is worth doing and then for actually doing it. The first great motivator is recognition from peers. When soldiers in wartime give up their lives during combat, why do they do it? Is it because of patriotism or belief in the cause they're fighting for? Or fear of court-martial if they do otherwise? Perhaps all those things play a part, but extensive research has shown that what really motivates a soldier to fight well in combat is the desire for the respect of the man who's fighting right beside him. This is much more important than medals or other forms of public recognition, which in the confusion of wartime are often given to the wrong people anyway. And what motivates soldiers in combat is only an extreme version of what motivates salesmen on the floor of a car dealership, or students in a classroom, or a team of lawyers trying to win a case. I don't know if this is still done, but for many years, the players in the National Football League used to select their own all-star team at the end of each season. I was always interested and rather amused by the differences between the players' selections and the all-star team picked by the fans or sports writers. And I'm also certain that the honor of being selected by one's fellow players meant a lot more than any sort of recognition from someone sitting up in the grandstand with a hot dog in his mouth. Quite simply, recognition from peers is a truly powerful motivating force in any human activity. The second important motivator is recognition from respected experts or authorities. I can tell you that in my own life, this has been an extremely important factor. Mr. Schoaf, whom I mentioned a moment ago, was someone that I respected from the first moment I was introduced to him. And he was also someone whose respect I desperately wanted to earn. Has there been someone like that in your life, or is there such a person in your life right now? Don't hesitate to politely approach them and introduce yourself. Unless you happen to catch them at a particularly difficult moment, most successful people are eager to help others and to pass on what they've learned. Sure, I was apprehensive about meeting Mr. Schoaf when I first saw him, but I shuddered to think what my life would be like if I hadn't done it. Family is the third great motivator, and in many ways, it's really the most powerful. Although the approval of peers and experts may be most important in your career, in your life as a whole, nothing can compare with the importance of your family. An experience I had a number of years ago is a good illustration of that principle. I had just finished giving a talk before a group of entrepreneurs up in Minneapolis when a young man approached me and asked me for some advice about achieving financial success. As I always do when asked for that sort of advice, I began with a couple of standard, straightforward questions. The first one was, how much money would you like to make annually? When I ask this question, I want to see whether the person has given enough thought to his goals so that he can come up with a specific figure. That's a much better sign than someone who just says, I want to make a whole lot. But this fellow was even more specific and focused than I could possibly have expected. I need to make at least $250,000 a year for the next 10 years, he said without a second's hesitation. And why do you want to make that amount? I now inquired. This was another standard question of mine, and once again he answered immediately. Mr. Rohn, he said, 10 years from now, when my kids are old enough to enjoy it, I want to take my family on a trip around the world that they'll remember all their lives. The trip itself will last for 12 full months, with no expenses spared. And in order to save enough money to make it happen, I will need an annual income of $250,000 for the next decade. There were literally tears in his eyes as he said this, and although I haven't heard from him since then, I have no doubt that he'll achieve his goal. This man was working because he desired to give his wife and children a lifetime's worth of priceless memories. And if that isn't a reason to believe, I don't know what is. The fourth and last achievement motivating factor I want to mention is closely related to the desire to benefit your family. In fact, you could say it's a desire to benefit the whole family of man. Let's call it the impulse toward benevolence, toward sharing your wealth and wisdom with the world. When we look at the four important motivators I've just discussed, what do we really see? The thing that I immediately notice is that they all involve other people, whether it's peers, mentors, family members, or simply fellow members of the human race. It's ironic, isn't it? In order to be successful, you need this very internal, very personal, very unique thing called strong character. But in order to acquire that innermost quality and set it to work, you need people other than yourself as reasons to believe. Maybe that's not true if you're the toughest man on earth. Maybe then you can do whatever needs to be done just because you set your mind to do it. The thing is, though, there's only one toughest man on earth at any one time, and I'm not the one. And I'm kind of glad about that too, because needing and working for other people is really what's made my life worthwhile. And I'm sure you feel the same way.
I almost quit. I'm a country boy. I'm from West Virginia. I don't know nothing about this big time stuff. I never even asked to be big. I wanted to be effective, not famous. Famous is the consequences of being effective. I didn't know nothing about being famous and I didn't like it. And so there I was. And when you first knew, everybody attacks you first and figures you out later. And the first time I was in the Washington Post, the article was so vicious it made me nauseous. I was so shocked that you could say that stuff about somebody you didn't even know based on assumptions and a little bit of this and a little bit of that. They piece it all together and you don't get to say anything back. So I decided I don't want this. I was preaching for Pastor Bishop Donnie Mears, and nobody knew it because preachers can override their feelings and function. I preached, the place was on fire, but inside I want to quit. I told God, I'm through with this. I'm not going through this. I don't need this. I don't need that. I'm a guy who likes to go get his own chicken wings. I don't have to have all of that stuff to be happy. So I thought, I'm not doing this no more. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this because I don't need this and I didn't ask for this. I'm only doing this because of what happened in my life, of the circumstances that happened in my life. He put me on stage. I didn't ask for it. And when I saw how much it cost, I thought, you can have that right back here. You can have that right back up in there. I don't need it. So I was mad inside. I was hurt. And I stayed up in the fellowship with the pastors because I didn't want to go back to my room and sulk in my own sorrows. And they said, there's a lady downstairs waiting to see you. The service was over and the fellowship was over. The pastor was starting to leave. I was trying to outwait her. I thought she'd give up and leave. And when I finally came down the steps, she was there. And she was just a willowy bit of a woman. And she said, Bishop Jakes, she said, I've been in the hospital. She said, I was pregnant in my fallopian tubes, and the baby died in my tubes, and I was carrying around a dead baby, and the toxicity from the baby almost killed me. And she said, the only thing that kept me alive was hearing you preach. She said, if you hadn't been preaching to me every day, I swear I would have died. And then she looked at me and she said, it's for us. It's not for them. It's for us. It hit me so hard. I didn't even get her name. I got in the car and cried all the way back to my room because she reminded me why I was there. Last week when I text you, I was up in Baltimore in D.C. and I was doing a book signing. And this woman came up to the table to buy sword. She said, you don't remember me, do you? I said, no. She didn't even look like the same person. She's all dressed up and gained weight. She felt like she wanted to say, she said, I met you in the bottom of Donnie Mears church years ago, and I burst into tears. I lost it. I stopped the signing, and I jumped up and hugged her. If it were not for that woman,
Ready for Evolution. Good morning, 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 morning. Welcome to another edition of Classes in Session. But God. But God. Greetings, peace, and power. Run through some housekeeping rules, and then let's chop it up a little bit. I'm honored and happy to see all of you here. Classes in Session every Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. Eastern, right here on the Eric Toure Muhammad Facebook page. You're welcome to join us as always. We appreciate your sacrifice. We appreciate your commitment. We appreciate your sharing it with others, and I appreciate the wealth of knowledge I gained from you all in your comments, in your influences, and what you have been able to do for my life. I'm grateful and honored. So, Classes in Session every Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. right here on the Eric Toure Muhammad Facebook page. And of course, we know the rules are rules. Have we paid ourselves first lately? Okay, pay yourself first, folks. Pay yourself first, particularly now. There's no greater time, no better happen, especially what we're embarking on, especially those things that have happened in the last few weeks. It tells you that we are in the right place ahead of time, but now you want to be able to take advantage of that. You want to stay plugged in. You want to stay in communication. You want to stay on top of everything that goes on in the world of wealth builders, that goes on in your world. Stay on top of leveraging the income in your home with gold. I loved what Sister Veronica Burroughs, Mrs. Burroughs, said this morning. She said, make the world gold again. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's heading that way. And the beauty about it, we are ahead of it. So pay yourselves first. There are generations that will thank you for it down the road. Don't you want to be remembered and be considered worthy of the recognition? The fact that people's world generations to come are better because you came today. How about your world right now? How many more 50-year-olds are inside of you, 100-year-olds inside of you? Every one of us on this stream, every one of us on the earth breathing, 98.6. Each one of us has another person inside of us waiting to come to the stage when it's our time. It might be 10 years later from now. It might be 5 years later from now. It might be 5 minutes from now. How well have you prepared that stage for them to come on and have the right equipment, to have the right tools, so they can give the right performance? Pay yourself first, folks. Okay? Do not forget this event. The 2020 Paper to Gold Run to Wealth Conference and Expo. It is Saturday, August 22nd, 2020. I see the writing is a little off there, but it's from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. It's free admission for new Carabao affiliate accounts that are only registered at goguru.info. It's free for them. You know, early bird tickets are $11. You can get your tickets at www.runtowealth.info. Okay, those early bird tickets close out on August 18th, and then it goes to the general admission of $20. You're going to learn about family trust, private family banking. You're going to learn about estate planning. You're going to learn about land and real estate acquisition and advancing your gold accumulation from some of the top experts in the world of wealth builders. Some of you being introduced to them for the very first time. I'm telling you, this is going to be amazing for all of us. I will never, ever put myself in a position, my family who work with me in this process will never put ourselves in a position to offer something that has no value. Because I know the value that I gain from you. I know you all know the value that you'll gain from each other. We're going to exponentiate that. We're going to show us how to protect that wealth. We're going to show us how to preserve and increase that wealth lifelong, generationally long. We're not looking for instant gratification, but we've earned the right to know what to do with what's coming in literally a few weeks. So make sure you're part of that expo. Tickets, www.runtowealth.info. There'll be more information coming as the days progress. Okay, so with that being said, good morning, good morning, good morning. All right. Jake's pulled on some tremendous heartstrings there. And I found it necessary to include with the footage that we heard from Jim Rohn. And all of it came about, and I want to apologize for my tardiness this morning. I was off a little bit because I wanted to make sure that certain things were in place, because I had a tremendous masterclass yesterday. And sometimes it's only in time and reflection do you realize the magnitude and the power of anything that you experience. But yesterday morning, immediately after our classes in session, I was blessed to speak to one of my great mentors and heartthrobs, my mentor, Sister Cece Mahone. And Sister Cece gave a masterclass that I titled, "Who Do You Think You Are?" And it was such a powerful, powerful, powerful presentation, because she's merely observing, but she's such the teacher. She's such the nurturer. And I'm hearing her. She's pouring on my heart. We get off of that phone. I go to the power call. And while I'm on the power call, the only thing I'm thinking about is not the only thing, but what was primary in my mind was the conversation I just had with Cece Mahone. So immediately I started writing and drawing down on it and pulling from it and looking for something that would fit with some measure, what I gained and what I know I'll gain in that class. Then, before the night ended, I was blessed with another extraordinary masterclass. And it was Dr. Sergio Rosell. And I must have been on the line and under his tutelage for maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. I don't know. But he poured into me and onto me, like Sister Cece, in ways that I had never experienced. And I just thought it was so magnificent. And I wanted to find some kind of way to bring it back to us. And I know I haven't done it the justice that it really deserves. But I'm telling you, we really have to spend time with each other. We really have to dialogue with each other. We really have to make a genuine effort to develop that sense of family that we have each and every day. Somewhere along the line, it can't be enough, and I'm not suggesting that it is for any of you. I'm just sharing this thought. Sometimes it cannot be enough just to say we know each other, or we were at a rally, or we were at Let's Go weekend, or we were here, or we were there. God does not give us each other just so we can say we know each other, or we had a photo op, or we get an autograph. Or God gives us each other to exploit the good in each other for the benefit of the whole, for all of humanity, and that's who we are. And our sense of purpose is growing every day. The more we fellowship with each other, the more we work with each other. And I'm going to share something else with you in this that I learned from both of these greats yesterday. I learned that the process of healing, the process of repair, restoration, that process begins with our willingness to congregate for each other. Whether it's the prayers of the righteous, whether it's engaging in dialogue and wanting the best for you and I as individuals, half of the healing is based off the mindset, off of our will to be healed. And when you commune with each other, when you dialogue and fellowship with each other, mind you now, understand you're coming from a world, I shouldn't say you, we are coming from a world where our community is shrinking only to expand. It's like the hourglass. You ever see an hourglass? You see how the hourglass is shaped? It has the tubular, then it comes down into a narrow space, then it comes back out and funnels out at the bottom. Why? Because the top of that glass is allowing you time to sift and sort. To sift and sort. And all of a sudden your community gets extraordinarily small, only to expand again with the like minds that settle. We have no control over time. None. And as a result, we have to engage in ways that we make the best and the most of it as humanly possible. I mean, really beyond humanly possible. We have to take monumental steps where every step is sure, every step is relatable to the goal. So, I think the only way that we can really make room to share the power of what a C.C. Mahone offered and a Dr. Rozelle offered and what so many of you offer and give me is to, with your permission, to share you with the platform. So I'm going to be reaching back out to our mentors to see if we can carve out a time. And we know that some of us have extenuating circumstances where we might have to pre-record and share their presentations with us in the session. Don't ever take each other for granted. There's something to gain from everyone, even in criticisms that we don't like. I shared some very personal things with Sister Cece. Yesterday, I felt like I was laying on a virtual couch. She was my doctor, and she was sitting there. I could see her sitting there with her notepad and pencil and maybe glasses drawn down to the nose like this, and then looking up and saying, "What was your relationship like with your parents?" Because she was just giving of herself, her observations. She was being Sister Cece. She was being her natural giving, loving, nurturing, teaching self. And it opened my mind and heart up to so many different avenues, all in the same direction, now, mind you. I mean, I wasn't scattered brain in the least bit. It was just extremely endowing, you know. I felt like I increased in wealth after speaking or hearing from her yesterday, from Dr. Roselle yesterday, you know, and I get a measure of that every day. I'm always fired up after all that we do. I'm always fired up. It was just something really magical about those sessions yesterday that made me want to serve more, make me want to do more and get myself out the way. You know, what do you think you are? You can't make time to share good news with the next person. Who do you think you are that you can't share that which is beneficial to you with the masses? Because why? You don't like to make a call? You don't like to invite somebody? You don't like to share what's good for you, knowing inherently it'll be good for them? Who do you think you are, Eric? You know, where I live, Brother Carlito can bear witness to it. Everybody around our family, the majority of the people are wealth builders, because we spared no stone. We talk to everybody. But that comes from a particular understanding. Okay. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us from childhood. We would hear radio broadcasts and things of this nature. And this man even wrote in books. He has 2 books that I'm studying here. I always share with you Fall of America, but 2 volumes of books, How to Eat to Live. He said, if you learn how to eat to live, you won't live to eat. Okay? There's a lot of wealth building jewels in that statement. He said, there's a day coming that if you're not prepared, people will be able to smell a bag of dry navy beans in your home out of their desperation. You see, that whole concept of digging your well before you need your water is not just a wealth building concept. Noah built an ark. That was a lesson for us. Why was that ark built over hundreds of years? Because it takes that long to learn the lesson, to meet it upon arrival. Here we are at arrival. We have to build. Everybody around me in my immediate purview are wealth builders or have been introduced to the opportunity in several exposures. Why? Because you're coming into something right now that's going to revolutionize life as we know it. It's going to affect us materially. It's going to affect us visibly. And people who you're next to as neighbors or colleagues or peers who were not afforded the opportunity that you have only because you did not share will resent you. And who's to say you'll be safe then? Where can you go when you've been next door to somebody 10, 12 years, 15 years? You mow lawns, you see each other when you take out the mail, and never offered the opportunity to help make their life better because you know what their life is like, because you lived their life before this wealth transfer. Dr. Roselle put something on my mind yesterday that had me reeling backwards. Dr. Roselle said, you know, it's an amazing accomplishment when someone can walk away, fire their employer after 103 days. He said, Mr. Michael L. Dalco, he said, make no mistake about it, he is our hero in Wealth Builders. He walked away within 103 days, replaced his entire six-figure income with the opportunity of Carabal's International. He said, but to me, this is Dr. Rozelle, he said, to me, that's not the most magnificent part of the story. He said, to me, the most magnificent part of the story is he failed for 19 years before Carabal's. He didn't quit. He failed upward. He failed upward. He was on a trajectory that gave him combustion. So when the opportunity hit, all the factors were engaged. He went from T1, he was in countdown, boom, he exploded onto the scene. He worked at it 19 years in hopes of being different, in hopes of being exceptional, in hopes of being free, and didn't even know what to call it. 19 years, and then pow, he was gone. 103 days. You see, all of us have the story. What happens when you do not share the opportunity with the next, and they see you getting better and then growing more and more destitute? What would they want to do to you? I was on tour with Brother Carlito. We were, I forgot what city we had hit. And we got split up in the tour. I ended up going somewhere else that particular weekend. I can't remember what city it was, but we had issues. When I say issues, my wife and I, we had issues on the home front, leaving out to catch the plane. And on the drive out, a tire went flat. And I didn't have the spare. And now we had to come back, circle back to the house, park it. Then I had to catch a share ride. I think it was Lyft. I don't remember. And then I get to the airport, just barely making the flight. But now I'm gone 4 or 5 days, and there's no transportation for the wife and the children, and I got to make this right. And so I get to, I want to say it was Philadelphia. Maybe we didn't get split up, maybe because I was just leaving from a different destination. But I want to say it was Philadelphia. So now I'm there trying to figure out how to make things happen for the household back in Georgia. And I didn't have the AAA, and everybody that normally works around us, everybody was on the road. My brothers were on the road with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and they're car techs and mechanics and all kind of stuff. And just nowhere to, no one was there. And I was unnerved about it because I don't want my family to be without. I want them to have the provisions they need to maneuver, right? And so I'm scrolling through Facebook in some downtime. I'm taking my mind off it just a little bit, but I'm scrolling through Facebook, and on the, the notifications, there's a notification that said that Leonard so-and-so, I don't want to mention his last name, commented on a post that you were tagged to. And I said, Leonard, he's my neighbor. That's right. He's a wealth builder. He's on my team. I called. And this is a man at that time, like I was before Wealth Builders, working 90 hours a week. He had 2.5 jobs, and he's just running. And he answered the phone. He said, "Hey, brother, hey man, I can help you. I'll be over there in 20 minutes because Look, he said, I just decided today, man, I wasn't going in. I just made a decision, man. I'm not doing this today. I'm glad I'm here. And I go to call my wife and can't reach her. I said, well, what's going on? Turns out she was already with him. You know, as soon as he hung up the phone, by the time I called my wife, he had made it down to the house, knocked on the door, let her know he was outside. If you can give me the keys, I'll take care of it. Boom, done. Could I have reached out to brother if I were not engaging everyone into the opportunity? Would it even existed? See, who do you think you are to be so selfish with this opportunity that you don't share it? Sister Pam, the scripture says it this way. He who had light, who would hide it under a bushel basket? Don't hide your light. Share it with the world. That's why God chose you. He chose you to share it. He chose us to share it with 8 billion people around the world. We're not here to gloat that gold is going to hit $2,000 an ounce this week. We're not here to gloat over that. Yeah, we're trying to tell you. We're still trying to tell us, hopefully. Homework assignment tomorrow. Your homework today is to reach out to someone in your downline on your organization whom you haven't reached out to in a long time or at all, and share with them the opportunity again. Share with them in this way. Look, I know it's been a minute, but I just want to explain to you what I know of this opportunity over the last year. It's been amazing, X, Y, and Z. And then I'd like for you to close it out with inviting them to classes in session tomorrow. And let's see how that goes. You've done some amazing streams this past week, so I know you have the courage to reach out to people who are in your downline who may not even know why they're there. You know, great stream, Sister Pamela Dixon. That Proverbs piece was really strong. It set the stage. Great stream, Brother Lewis Cox. You know, loved it, brother. I loved it. I love how all of us have something different to engage. It bears witness to what is said in the Muslim scripture, the Holy Quran. It says, we are all created in tribes and families so that we may know one another. That means there's different attitudes, there's different talents, there's different gifts and skill sets that each one of us have. And if we embrace each one of us, then we develop the gift of God on the whole. Remember, a slice or a pie is the sum of all its parts. Each one of us plays a part in the pie. Each one of us is a slice that offers a certain measure of texture, that offers a certain level of taste, that offers a certain level of consistency. We don't fit everybody else's pie. Your pumpkin slice won't go with the pecan slice. Your pecan slice won't go with the apple pie. But when it's tied to its community and all of us are in the same pan, we represent something. A pie is equal to the sum of all its parts. Each one of us represents a slice. Each one of us represents a degree of knowledge. Each one of us represents a skill set. Each one of us possess those things because it's a gift from the Creator. How we utilize it is our gift back to Him. Power call, 10:45 a.m. Eastern. It is the magnificent one, Sister Maxine Jones, here to do the thing she does. It's Turn Up Tuesday. Okay, I will be doing the wealth building presentation live at 12 noon, God willing. I'm trying to be cool right now because you know I'll be crunk come 12 noon. Then our coach of coaches, Mr. Al Murray, is doing the 9 p.m. Presentation. And then we have, what do we have? You know, there's so many things going on. This is Tuesday, right? This is our off week at Kafani Radio. Thank you, Brother Carlito. Thank you, Brother Vincent Muhammad. Thank you. Thank you. You know, we're on every week airing live with the exception of the last week of each month, getting prepared for the programming and the dialogues and discussions for the upcoming weeks, and so I'm off tonight from California Radio Land, and I'm on tonight in the world of Sister Falami. So it's our time this evening. But I want to thank you all, encourage you all to join the power call today. It's going to be magnificent. Prior to that, of course, Miss Lakeisha McKnight is on, and then we're moving over to Brother Kansu Hotep Atum, and then the power call. And then I'll see all of us again at 12 noon. Bring your teams. I can't guarantee that they'll gain any real benefit from me. What I can guarantee is they'll be ready to get to Mr. Al Murray for whatever they might have missed with me. Okay. So peace and power, family. Thank you all so much. Remember our event. Make sure you get your tickets. www.runtowealth.info. www.runtowealth.info. Early bird tickets expire August 18th. That's no time, folks. Before you know it, the time is gone. It's $11. Okay, and then it goes up to 20. So be mindful, be there, be encouraged, stay blessed. Thank you for allowing me to share with you, and peace and power. I'll see us on the other side of money. Forward.
Peace. Strong words. Love. Soul. And change. Yeah. This is Big Snoop Dogg. Coming at you live and direct. And I got something to say. You dig?
Let's change the world. Divided we fall, but united we stand. Let's change the world. No fights, no wars. Oh, let's learn to love again. Let's change the world. Let's change the world. Let's change the world. Whoa, oh, oh. Let's change the world. Let's change the world. Let's change the world. Let's make hope for the future.
Brother, what will you discover if we come together and do it like we never? I'm just sick and tired. I'm fit to light the fire. Now put this on the wire. The devil is a liar. I do this with no hesitation. Meet me at the reservation. Elevating, educating, meditating, concentrating. Replenisher, finisher, opposite of sinister. And I do it for the minister.
Let's change the world. Divided we fall, but united we stand. Let's change the world. No fights, no wars. Oh, let's learn to love again. Let's change the world. Let's change the world. Let's change the world. Whoa, oh, oh. Let's change the world. Let's change the world. Let's change the world. Let's make hope for the future.
Somebody need to stop the war. Man, the war ain't overseas, it's at your front door. And I done seen too many brothers shot up on the floor for more than drugs and some colors. And now you call us warlords. But if you can help it, then help it. But you ain't helping us. You so selfish and selfless, you wanna see us breathless and helpless. But I'ma hustle and tussle for all my brothers who struggle. Yeah, we bang the world. Now let's change the world.
Let's change the world. Divided we fall, but united we stand. Let's change the world. No fights, no wars. Oh, let's learn to love again. Let's change the world. Let's change the world. Let's change the world. Whoa, oh, oh. Let's change the world. Let's change the world. Let's change the world. Let's make make hope for the future.
No killing, no shooting, no dying, no lying, no gang banging, so no more mamas crying. Everybody get along, man, that be the perfect song. Peace in the streets as I sit back on my phone, chilling with the president. He let me in the White House, back to the castle with the minister, no doubt. Shoes at the front door, love is what you come for. Let's get it right and unite, but do it front
Let's
so.
change the world, divided we fall, but united we stand. Let's change the world, no fights, no wars, so let's learn to love again. Let's change the world, let's change the world, let's change the world. Whoa, oh, oh. Let's change the world, let's change the world, let's change the world. Let's make hope for the future.